Awesome. Thank you all for coming tonight. My name is Maya Jared, and I'm with 350 PDX. And so next we will hear from PTerry Light, who's a member of Right to Survive, a houseless organizer living at Hazelnut Grove and is in between housing. He has former lives as an activist until he had a break with reality in 1988, and then put himself back together as an Oriental bodyworker and health educator up to 2008, when he went off the grid to answer the basic question, what are basic human needs? His quest has led him to houseless organizing, beginning with Nicholsville in Seattle, on through rewilding work on the Shoshone and Paiute Hoop, and back into the grid at Portland's houseless community, Dignity Village, in 2011. His work is informed by the recovery movement, his understanding of Native ideals, the pagan community, the queer community, feminism and intersectionality, white resistance, solidarity, and he currently works at Common Ground Wellness Cooperative. Terry went to Paris as a member of the It Takes Roots Coalition.
Hi, I did not attend any of the talks, and I haven't been involved in the climate change movement per se. And my first inkling about connecting to it was when I went to the U.S. Social Forum this last summer and connected with Rising Tide, and really hearing a different story about what needed to change, and I was agreeing with those new concepts. That it's not so much about changing our ideas about how we treat the environment, but that the very environment that's creating environmental problems is our social justice structure, and how we treat each other, how we do democracy, how we listen to each other. And out of the blue, I got invited to be part of the It Takes Roots grassroots mobilization, which was made of the Climate People's Action Group, the Indigenous Environmental Network, and also Grassroots Global Justice, which I was part of that. I wanted to bring back more of some impressions I got from organizing with mostly people of color when I went to Paris. We talked over and over about frontline communities, where communities are already experiencing climate change. You know, we've had the flooding here with Katrina, and the communities responded by pulling themselves together, even though a lot of the rest of the country has ignored the racist implications of how people were taken care of after that crisis. It's continuing to be a case, you know, until we have a problem we're experiencing it ourselves that we do anything about. And that just speaks to the kind of the way our cultural idea has colonized people inside of a colonized system. We believe that the government's still working, but it's partly because we've grown up inside of it, and it seems to be working for us who still have enough privilege to be able to go easy in the world and get help when we need help. Being part of the houseless community, I don't expect help from our police department. I don't expect that if I need something wrong with myself, that I'm actually going to get assistance from the community. There's a lot of places where we allow people to be abandoned. When we're talking about Indigenous rights, it's a whole different perspective from an Indigenous point of view. They see their role is to take care of all of their relations, the non-humans, the humans, and also paying attention to a different set of goals that involve the generations. So there was a lot of youth involvement in the groups we had, and there was a lot of elders. There was a lot of talking from different perspectives and coming together and mobilizing. There was a huge amount of passion. We were able to lead the march in the last day, of like really breaking away out of the zone where we're allowed to be in. At the very end, it was a little disappointed that there were 3 projects and not 1, but we decided to attend all those protests. So I came away from Paris thinking about we need to have a change of heart. And it's a process. When I think about how do we start really building community of human beings that are really standing up for the rest of nature, and that rest of nature has a huge way of informing ourselves as human beings, because I feel like our cultures forgot about being human. There's large forces that help us identify if as long as we're a worker, then we're allowed to be able to have food and housing and be part of the culture and be listened to. And experience of being houseless is all of a sudden you don't have access to communicating with other people, because how we've all been taught that if something happens to us, oh, too bad. And it's kind of unacceptable, because like, how can we hear from the urgency of other cultures? We can't even hear the urgency of ourselves and our own communities when we see it in our face. And I feel like it's kind of a hard work to look at, like how do we actually come to that place in our heart and carry that with us as we go through our day. It's a bit of a transition. And I think that's what I was speaking to when I talked about when I first had a break with reality. That was when I first saw Native American organizing and realized that my sense of community, I didn't know anything about community. I grew up in the military, I grew up in a normal family, went to school, at church, and it was like in that community, everybody had a right and a birthright to be taken care of, being warm and fed and sheltered from the storm. That was like a big cause of break for me 20 years ago. And I feel like we're like at this moment where we have to transition a big way where everything changes, including ourselves, including the way we think, including like how we consider each day differently. And I think it's really important, like after we're going to talk more, I think later, like what are our next steps? And I think it's like here, inviting the voices, different perspectives into the room to talk about their experiences with climate change, their experience with how they're organized. And there's this whole level of needing to come from the heart, and there's also the level of really start talking about spiritualities. That there must be something greater than human beings. And we're not the only sentient being on our planet. So there's been a lot of meditating on those things since I came back. One of the last days that we had, the youth led us in an exercise where we appreciated each other. And we don't do that often in direct action organizing because we're so in the war all the time. And that gave me a lot of pause about how traumatizing the very work we're doing is for ourselves. That we have to take time to heal and make that part of our process as human beings and moving forward. And healing, getting to know who we really are. Because nobody really asked us. We went to school, we like assumed that we wouldn't know anything and we just have to go to school and learn and then we'll be smart. And some of the Native communities have a different viewpoint. You come in the world and then you're going to discover what you want to do, and nobody should tell you what that is. And I feel that strongly about our direct action and our organizing, that each person has to decide for themselves in their relationship to their creator what their task is at this moment. Mine is, for me, is like, how do I create connection to we're actually in the same room with each other in this present moment, and being present so we can have the opportunity to choose differently. Because I feel it's really strongly in our face right now. No, I don't know where it's off to.
You have another minute or so if you want.
Huh?
You have another minute if you want. But you don't need to take it if you don't.
And so I think here, and it's like one of the things that I was doing is really be inspired to sing more. So I'll leave you with a song. This is coming from Africa, the wisdom of Africa. Wangari, Mahatma Wangari. Is that right? Terrible names. She founded the Green Belt movement. And they created their process. There's 4 basic elements to their process for decolonizing. And it's really important for us to understand, as part of that colonizing culture, is that we have to decolonize. So the 4 basic steps from that process for me, and this is a song for that, it's really easy. Love your mother, respect her gifts, stand up, don't sit down, no. Give what you can when you can. You guys can all learn if you want. Just love your mother, respect her gifts. And I include in that our gifts are each other as human beings, that we're a gift. And so are the animals and the plants and the air and the water. And stand up means to be empowered. And to give when you can, so you don't beat yourself up. Please don't do that. Okay. Love your mother.
Love your mother.
Respect her gifts.
Respect her gifts.
Stand up. Don't sit down, oh no.
Stand up. Don't sit down, oh no.
Give what you can when you can.
Give what you can when you can.
And we can do it together. Love your mother. Respect your gifts. Stand up. Don't sit down, oh no. Give what you can when you can. That's it. Thank you.
But also, the question is, how can people plug into your organization, It Takes Roots, because it seems like you're doing some great stuff?
The question is, how can people plug into the work that you're doing at It Takes Roots?
Do you want to answer?
I was just saying the Grassroots Global Justice that we're a part of was actually coming out of the U.S. Social Forum. They split off and are continuing to do some of the work that U.S. Social Forum was doing. There are many, many things to do in social justice work. I think reading Naomi Klein's book is a really great step if you haven't read it yet. This Changes Everything. It's an awesome book. I think it elaborates quite a bit about what's in front of us to look at and change. I think dealing locally around like Black Lives Matter, that was an integral part of our group. They had an action there too at Paris. So internationally looking at how Black Lives Matter. We have a white solidarity network group here to help deal with history of whiteness and how to support people of color. Surge, I think it's, I forget what the initials are. That's a group that's in town.
I want to thank the panel. It was very informative. A couple, Dr. Stein and Terry touched on the fact about the need for changes. And as you were talking, we're talking about the climate, but it connects to everything. How do we get changes like that? Because our minds tend to think of, well, we're solving this one problem, and it connects to everything else. How do we maybe get that holistic system change?
So the question for the people in the back who couldn't hear is, there's so many issues, and as our panelists mentioned, they are connected, the intersection of the social and environmental justice issues that we see. How do we work on all of them when it's so hard to even just get through one of them?
part of what I came back with is really how do I work locally, building the relationships. I mean, if you go think about the theme of people over profits, and no war, like what does that mean on a daily interaction level? What does it mean to get closer to each other so we don't have to use so much escaping items? Like a lot of things we do in our life is just escape the present moment or escape the way we feel. Go shopping, go do all these things to take care of our bodies as if like our life is so stressful, and like how do we unpack that? Do a lot of soul searching. I mean, that's where I'm at a lot with myself. I'm part of a community where our struggle is just to like how to get along and think of we rather than me. Getting out of that I, like as if my life mattered more than everybody's. Which of course our lives matter. I'm not saying they don't. But we tend to think about just our life. Or we tend to just think about just our children. Or just ours. But there is this whole thing about how do we think about all our relations? How do we think about relationships are more important than money? How do we think about not being so comfortable and making no sacrifices because we've been living so easy? It's a lot of stuff to do, and we also need to come together politically. And that it's like there's a whole process of dialogue that needs to happen, and also action. And it's, I think the actions are different for each one of us because we're all different and we have different capabilities and different perceptions and talents. For me, I'm moving in, how do I go back into that health providing role that I used to have that takes in community building. A lot of the issues that I see is like, how do we break down a generational trauma as white people? We have a whole history and culture of the burning times that happened that really changed our culture. That's based around how capitalism began. And women experience that still every day, that recovery from that process, that they're not, moving beyond being a woman that makes babies that can go to the worker capitalistic machine. How do we move from machine aspect of being a worker or a role to being carbon-based units where we have organic needs and rhythms and timing? Like, how do we take the time to learn to dance again? You move our bodies. These are all things that help break down that trauma. But these are my own thoughts and my own proclivities because of who I am. And each one of you have talents, just like how do you go reach out and create community and believe in something different than just my own survival? And that's like kind of a climate of fear. How do we go and pass that climate of fear and be brave for ourselves and take that adventure and make different choices?
So let's do a 1, 2, 3, and then we'll make a very pleasurable, loud noise. Medium noise, because people live here. Maybe soft noise. 1, 2, 3. Thank you all for coming.